Hanukkah is everyone's favorite in the Jewish world. What's not to like? Every year when I was rabbi at Beth Yeshurun, I would go and visit our preschoolers and our younger elementary school kids, and I would always ask them, what is your favorite holiday? I shouldn't have been surprised. Every hand went up. It didn't matter what time of year it was. Hanukkah, of course it was. Occasionally I would try to trick them, and I would say, not what is your favorite holiday, but what is the most important holiday? Thinking that somebody might say Rosh Hashanah or Passover, but no, every hand went up again, Hanukkah. I guess if you're a child, you can't help but elevate Hanukkah to the very top of any list. I know that when I was growing up, I loved Hanukkah. My mother's been gone for about a year now, but I still have strong and warm memories of what it was like celebrating Hanukkah growing up. My mother used to give us a clear indication that Hanukkah was coming because she would transform our dining room, put a special tablecloth with a giant basket and a big menorah on it. And as the presents began coming, as she bought one gift or another for one of us or another of us, she would start adding them around the menorah. I tell you, by the time Hanukkah came around, we were jumping with excitement, waiting and wondering what each box held. My mother did something else as well. She made sure that everybody knew that it was Hanukkah in our neighborhood. She made this gigantic Jewish star. It had to be 6 feet wide and 6 feet high. It was huge. And she would hang it outside our house right on our front wall. And she lined it with blue lights. And when she turned it on every night during Hanukkah, there was no mistaking that the Rosen family was Jewish. Hanukkah is special wherever Jews live. When I went to Israel as a rabbinical student my first year, I expected the whole country to be just overwhelmed with the celebration of Hanukkah. If everyone was Jewish, or at least 80%, it had to be a major celebration, right? TV specials, shopping sales, all kinds of ways in which you can make Hanukkah a really special national holiday. I was surprised. There's very little about Hanukkah that goes on in Israel, the Jewish state. Yes, there's a little bit of gifts that are given, but they're not really gifts. Chocolate gelt is usually what accompanies Hanukkah in most families' homes. There's another special food that is part of Hanukkah in Israel, and that is sufganiyot. All of a sudden, wherever you are, in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, or any city in Israel, during Hanukkah, you'll find boxes of strawberry-filled donuts. And they are just everywhere. They're in the kiosk, the grocery store, they're in stores everywhere, on corners, sold by all kinds of people. Now, you would think that with the fascination that Israelis have with these sufganiyot, these donuts, that they must enjoy them year-round. But the truth is, Israelis don't really take to donuts year-round. A number of times donut shops have tried to open in Israel. Even Dunkin' Donuts came to Israel, and I remember when it did. And yet they all end up closing because Israelis can't understand for the life of them why anybody would eat a Hanukkah sufganiyah at any other time of the year. Well, Hanukkah is a special time, wherever we are, wherever we live, and with whom we ever may share it. We talk at Hanukkah time, of course, about all the miracles that happened, and the major miracle, of course, was the burning of that cruse of oil that was supposed to burn just one night, but burned for 8. It's a rather amazing miracle, to be sure. And when we think about the heroes of Hanukkah, well, you ask any child and they'll tell you it was the Maccabees, and Judah Maccabee in particular. And they would be right. Their heroic deeds against the Greco-Syrian armies helped preserve Judaism, enabled us to be Jews 2,000 years later. Some of you know I write an article in the local Jewish newspaper, and my topic for this coming week is about Hanukkah and who are the heroes. The Maccabees for sure. But I learned something years ago from a teacher of mine, that as important as the Maccabees were, it was somebody else who also helped make it possible for us to have Hanukkah as we enjoy it and observe it today. After all, when the temple was destroyed by the Greco-Syrians and the Jews returned to that destroyed temple, they looked all around, and what did they find? They found one cruse of oil that had been hidden away by a priest, a Jewish priest. Now, I think it's pretty amazing. We don't know the name of the priest who hid away that one cruse of kosher oil that could be used in the temple. But he must have been quite a human being. The question is, why would he even think to hide away one little cruse of oil? The temple was going to be ransacked by the Greco-Syrians, and it was. Why would he ever think that the Maccabees or anybody else would be able to fight off the Greco-Syrian armies? Why would he or anyone else ever think that Jewish life would continue in the very place which the Greco-Syrians had so ruined? And yet this was a priest who had unbelievable faith. In his heart, he just knew that somehow the Jewish people would be victorious, that somehow we would be able to return to that temple and to rebuild it, to clean it, and to use it once again. And that we as a people would continue going on for century after century after century, many centuries, and thousands of years to come. I have to say that if that priest had not had that cruse of oil hidden so well and been the one who chose to do it, we wouldn't have had a menorah to light, and we wouldn't have had a miracle of the 8 nights. So what would Hanukkah have been without that little cruse of oil that he hid away? We can only guess, but we probably wouldn't have Hanukkah today. So yes, miracles come from different sources, and so do heroes. The Maccabees, yes, and also that anonymous priest. Thank God for him too. Yes, Hanukkah has a lot of miracles attached to it. It has a lot of stories and a lot of songs. It has some special foods. I mentioned sufganiyot in Israel. We enjoy latkes here. And some of us also enjoy sufganiyot, which you can find here in Houston too. There's so many ways in which Hanukkah pulls us together. This has been a hard year for us as Jews and for people not only in Houston and America, but around the world. This very night that we're celebrating Hanukkah, it's being celebrated by Jewish people throughout Europe and, of course, in the land of Israel. And every single Jew, wherever a Jew lives, has been impacted by the coronavirus, by this pandemic, exactly the same way. It's been tough on all of us because we can't be together with everyone we want to be with. We've had to limit who we're able to celebrate Hanukkah with. And that's not the way we like to celebrate our special, holy, and happy days. But this light reminds us that there's a future, that there are miracles, that there is a renewal. Light is always a symbol of hope. We're going to get past this, and we are going to look forward to a beautiful Passover with all our family and friends, I hope and pray, by the end of next March. We're going to look for a beautiful Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur back in our synagogue next fall. And yes, I'm looking forward to having all my family and friends together for a beautiful, happy, and bright Hanukkah next year. Let's light the candle for this third night of Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Ma'osur Yeshuati, lechana eleshabeach, Tikon beitefilati, v'sham toda nezabeach, v'yetachin matbeach, mitzar hamnabeach, az egmor b'shir mizmor, Chanukat hamizbeach, Az egmor b'shir mizmor Chanukat HaMizbeach. Chag Sameach, everybody.